Good morning. Great to see you this morning. Welcome. If you're new here, my name's Rob. I'm one of the pastors, and it's really our joy to have you worshiping with us this morning. Today's the second Sunday in October, which you would know is the Sunday when we honor the patron Saint Vlad Guerrero Jr. From the Toronto Blue Jays. And so, yes, we offer condolences to Boston Red Sox fans who have been delusional and lost for many years. We hope they will see the light. And it's that one time of year when all of Canada likes Toronto. So it's that kind of time of year. So it's special. So we thought we would honor it this morning. Thankful for the internet for these graphics. When I go on vacation, I was away just the first part of September for a little bit of vacation. We took a trip out west to visit my family. My niece was getting married, and when I go on vacation, I need a soundtrack for my vacation. I need to listen to a deep dive on an album, and I listen to it again and again and again and again. It will be the only thing that I listen to for days, sometimes 40 or 50 times, listening to the same album. And I want to listen to all the lyrics. I want to figure out who wrote the song, what other artists may have contributed to it. I want to watch YouTube interviews with the band about the album. Why did it come about? What was the rationale behind it? I love to just kind of get lost in something like this. And so we were here on our vacation. This is my family, my mom and dad in the middle, and then all of my siblings and all of our peoples. And, it's not very common because we live all across the country that we're all in the same place for 30 hours. And so we hired a photographer to get a picture of us while we were all there. And as I see that picture, I hear the soundtrack to my vacation. I hear the album, I hear the lyrics, I hear the music playing in my head. Even if you don't hear it, it's playing in my head. That's kind of how I work. But one of the lyrics of the songs that I listen to again and again and again on vacation, it's from a band named Bon Iver, and the lyric said this: I see things behind things behind things. I see things behind things behind things. It's a phrase that captures a moment that you've probably had where a light bulb goes off, and you realize there's more going on in this situation than I realized. There's more going on than what I see just on the surface. I think about maybe you get a text from a friend, and you stare at it for 45 minutes. What's going on here? Are they angry with me? Did I say something? Did I do something? Was I rude or something like that? Because as I look at this text, I think there's something else going on behind the scenes. Maybe someone you work with shows up into your office and all of a sudden they're really nice to you. What's going on here? What's the thing behind this niceness? I know they've got a performance review coming up. Maybe they want just everybody to like them. Maybe they're worried, that I'm going to take their job. What's going on behind this niceness? Is there a thing behind the thing? Wives, you come home on a Friday after work. You've had a tough week, and your husband offers to give you a shoulder massage. Now, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that he cares about the health of your shoulders. But maybe you're starting to wonder if there's something else going on here also. Maybe as I preach about money today, which I will be during this capital campaign, you're kind of thinking, all right, what's his real angle? What does he want from me? Is he trying to get this nice jet for himself? We're trying to raise all this money. Does he benefit from it somehow? What's really the agenda behind all of this? The motive. What is the belief behind all of it? What's going on here? Things behind things behind things. As I was listening to this phrase while I was on vacation, I got thinking about how much this phrase speaks to really what it means for you and I to be disciples of Jesus. It's really behind the heart of discipleship, learning to pay attention to the things that are going on beneath the surface of our lives. Learning to pay attention to what's going on in our hearts as we make our way through this life. Realizing that if we really, really want to change, if we really want to become more like Jesus, then he has to have access to those deeper places. Because he wants more for us than just changing our behavior. He wants to change our hearts. And so this morning, as we talk about money, we won't really be talking about money. We'll be talking about all the things that are connected to it, that live in our hearts, that are beneath the surface. We're going to be talking about all those things behind the thing. This is our third week in our capital campaign. We're going to be going till the end of October. And we are just kind of having these conversations around what is it going to look like as we take this next step of faith. that we're looking to raise $3 million over the next 3 years above and beyond our regular giving to make new space for new people. That's the heart of it. And we're 2 weeks away from our prayer vigil we're going to be having here at the church. We're going to be inviting you to come and to join us in praying for members of your church family, praying for our city. I came in early this morning and went through the prayer box and grabbed a handful and just walked around and prayed for some of the requests, and I was deeply moved at some of the things that you have put in there. And so I encourage you today, you can do it before you leave out in the foyer. Write out your prayer request, put it in the box, and know that we will be praying for it and for you during that time. Registration is also now open for our information session, so you can find out more about what's going on. What's this campaign look like? What's the space going to look like? There's going to be 2 in person. There's going to be a meal with those, and then 1 we're going to be online as well. So if you join us online, if you're watching on YouTube today, if you don't live in the greater St. John area and you want to have some more information, register for the online, and we will be glad to have a spot with you and share with you the information as well. And all of that is leading to November 2nd, which is going to be our big Sunday. We're going to be giving you cards to fill out, and we would ask that you would prayerfully consider what might we give above and beyond what we already give to this campaign to help make new space for new people. And that information that you're going to give back to us is going to help us make a wise, prudent plan moving forward. So when we get that amount and we kind of know what we have to work with, it'll help us know what we're going to do, what the timeline for that might be, whether the offices for the staff are now going to be outside instead of inside, tree houses. That'll be really helpful for us. So we ask that you be thinking even about that in advance, and we'll have some more information for you. So we have a financial goal for it, but and I've shared this with you before. I've got a participation goal for us. I've been really praying that all of us who call Rivercross Church their church family would find some way to participate in this campaign, would find some way to be involved. That this would be something that we take on together and share in together. So where we're going to be talking about money with all these things, I wanted to talk to us today about what Jesus talks about when he talks about money. I wanted us to kind of have his perspective on it so that we can kind of start with that as our foundation. And if the pastor talking about money makes you uncomfortable, I get it. I've probably heard some of the same stories that you've heard. But I'm really talking today about people who would say, you know what, Jesus is my Lord. I've asked him to be Lord of the whole of my life, and this happens to be a part of my life, and so we're going to talk about it today. Because Jesus wasn't just concerned about what we are doing with our money. He's concerned about what our money might be doing to us. And because money is a surface thing, Jesus wants to talk about the things behind the things that go on beneath the surface of our heart. So we're going to jump into Matthew chapter 5. I invite you to turn with me there. We're going to do a little bit in Matthew 5, and then we're going to jump ahead to Matthew chapter 6. And what I love about the Sermon on the Mount, which is Matthew chapter 5 and 6, is this is Jesus wanting to get to the heart of the matter for all of us on everything. And he spares us no comfort. Matthew chapter 5, we're going to start talking about murder. Matthew 5, 21 to 22 says this. You've heard it said to the people long ago, implying you know the 10 Commandments. Do not murder. And anyone who murders will be subject to judgment. But I tell you that anyone who's angry with his brother will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to his brother, Rakah, is answerable to the Sanhedrin. But anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger in the fire of hell. So here is Jesus. He knows his hearers have memorized the 10 Commandments. He knows they know this verse. And he is saying to them, murder is still evil. But he wants to get to the thing that causes murder, to the thing behind the thing. In other words, he says, it's great that you don't murder your neighbor, but if you hate them, if you speak poorly about them, if you hope he loses his job and he runs over his foot with his lawnmower, you're not really keeping the commandments. Jesus does not want us to murder, but he also does not want us to have murderous attitudes, angry thoughts, and even speak with contempt towards our brother. Jesus wants to minister and transform to the whole of us, deep to the very heart, right to the core of who we are. He continues on adultery. Matthew 5, 27 to 28. You've heard it said, do not commit adultery, but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Again, Jesus says adultery is still evil, but he wants to get to the thoughts and the motives and the beliefs behind those actions and be at work at that level. So Jesus does not just say lust is harmful. He says it's as if you were committing the effect already. So notice how Jesus goes beyond the behavior, the external, the surface, and gets right to the heart of the matter. And now he's going to do the same about money. Let's jump to chapter 6, verse 1. Jesus writes this, "Be careful, do not do acts of righteousness before men to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites do in the synagogues or on the streets to be honored by men. I tell you the truth, they've received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." Jesus is addressing here the temptation that all of us experience to use money to make us look better than we are. Maybe it makes us look more spiritual. Maybe it's to make us look more generous. Maybe it's to make us look more put together, more successful, more happy. Money is a tool in image management. We use it. We can buy things, have things, and then we put them on, and then people will kind of look at us and get a sense of who we want them to think we are. There's another word for this. It's called the cover-up. We can use money to cover up the fact that there are things going on beneath the surface of our heart that require attention, that are broken, that need healing, that need fixing, that need rescuing, that need redeeming. And the hope that money would make those things better, that's a lot of pressure to put on money. And Jesus says, if you're hoping your money will fix and heal and redeem what's going on inside of you, I've got good news for you. I have come, that is why I have come, to deal with those heart-level issues. His next warning, chapter 6, 19 to 21, Jesus says this, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Jesus is saying money is the greatest MRI of our hearts. It's the diagnostic tool that shows us what we treasure most. Don't listen to what people say they treasure. Look at what they spend their money on. What they spend their money on is really their treasure. It's the destination of their hope. What do we really believe will save us? Give us happiness, give us contentment, give us meaning that will make us feel complete or whole. And if we think it's money or material possessions, Jesus says we're in for a big disappointment. You know, I said at the first service, the most disappointed people that I've ever sat with, the most sad and lost kind of disappointed people that I've ever sat with are wealthy people who get terminally ill. Wealthy people who get terminally ill. Because for their whole life, their money has saved them. It's rescued them. It's fixed them. It's gotten them what they need in a moment of crisis. But when you get to the point where you realize there is nothing your money can do for you, it's a devastating moment. And it leaves this vacuum of, what now? Is there anything else that can help me in this moment? Possessions are great. I like having a car. I like living indoors. I like being able to go to the grocery store and buy groceries. Those are all great things. But when those things become our treasure, the thing we value, seek after, and order our whole life around the most, it's misplaced. And so this is the invitation to let your cars be cars, and homes be homes, and your money be your money, and let Jesus be the Lord of our life. Last verse, Matthew 6:24. "No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate the one or love the other. He will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Now, some translations don't have money. What do some translations have? Maybe you've got it here today. Mammon. Some will say you cannot serve both God and mammon. Money's not a great translation because money's neutral. Money's just money. It's an inanimate object. It has no value until we give it value. It has no power until we give it power. Mammon is an Aramaic word suggesting that our money takes on a dark power over us in our lives. Mammon draws us into its orbit. There's a lure to it. It says, trust me, I'll look after you. Everything you need, I will make sure that you get. And it promises us everything we want. Maybe you know people, and this is not a very theological word, but when topic of money comes up, they just get weird. It's almost like money's got a hold on them in a really unnatural kind of way. It controls them. They will break friendships and family relationships over the most ridiculous amounts of money. They will hold grudges and try to punish people over money issues. And there's a fear, an underlying current of fear or panic that they're going to miss out, that there's something just beyond them that they will never have if they do not get more money. When we forfeit control in our life to money, it will distort us in the most awful of ways. And it can happen. As disciples, we need to pay attention to the things behind the things. Maybe you grew up in a home where money was really tight, and there was a lot of stress all the time. If someone came home with a note from school that they needed $20, it set the whole family in panic. And you just kind of said to yourself, I don't know when it was, but at some point in your life said, that is not going to be me. I am not going to let my house be that way. Maybe you grew up in a home where money was all about control. If you did what Dad wanted, you got rewarded for it. If you didn't do what Dad wanted, your sister got rewarded for it. Maybe you deal with some insecurities. And money kind of makes you feel good. It makes you look good. It makes you kind of present an image that, you know what? I'm not as insecure as I might appear. And maybe you've had money problems. You had debt problems. And money is just like a painful, shameful topic for you. Those are all really important issues. And Jesus cares about all of them. But Jesus will not tell you to get more money, because that won't fix any of them. The answer to those problems, the solution to those wounds or those hurts or those questions can only be found as we trust our heart more and more to the Jesus who heals and restores and puts us back together again. So what does the New Testament say about kind of guarding our heart against all of these dangers and temptations and tensions? Well, it's through the spiritual practice of financial generosity. The Old Testament people were called to the practice of tithing. It was this elaborate system, but in its most basic form, it required people to give 10% of their income to the temple for expenses, sacrifices, celebrations, and caring for the poor. And it was behind this belief was simply this: I am not an owner. God has entrusted this to me, and I give a portion back to him. God's entrusted this to me. I will be a good steward of all that he's given to me. And it was almost like God said, look, once these people start earning money, it's going to mess them up. They're going to make the biggest mess with this. I need to come up with something to help them not fall into the trap of thinking it's all about them to do whatever they want to do. I need to do something to keep their hearts from going funky, from their attitudes from getting weird, from this kind of misguiding and contorting their lives. And so I'm going to give them, I'll do this. I'll give them some money, and then I'll ask them for a little bit back. I'll give them, and I'll ask for a little bit back. And in that practice of giving back, and that practice of tithing, then it will be like a muscle that gets developed in our hearts, and we remember, I'm not the center of the universe. God has been good to me. I've been called to be a steward. I'm going to be generous. I'm going to put others before myself. It's this practice that will keep our heart from getting distorted. And yet the human heart is incredible. It can take something as simple and beautiful as a commandment like that and completely ruin it, make loopholes, and create a complete new form of legalism, which happened. Throughout the Old Testament, it happened. You had a farmer, and they had 100 cows, so a tithe would be 1 cow. And so they go out to their field someday, and they look at all their cows, and they see this beautiful cow over here. Then they see over here this ugly, skinny, cross-eyed, foaming at the mouth cow, worth absolutely nothing, about to die. And they go, I can give that one. And they do. They fulfilled the requirements. But it did nothing for their hearts. We can do the same thing with our giving too, right? We give God a percentage of our income, and now I can do whatever I like with the rest. Actually, now I can do what I would have loved to have done with all of it if I had, but I just have this left. It's kind of like we're paying God off, just like there. I gave you your bit, leave me alone, so I can kind of do what I want with the rest of my life. This is a problem because it was never to be about money. It's about our hearts. And asking on whether or not we're really going to trust God, we trust Him with this part of our life, we trust Him with this part of life. Will we also trust Him with this part of my life that's connected to so many things in our hearts? So Jesus actually does not call us to tithe because in the New Testament it does not say anything about tithing. And like murder and like adultery, it does not lower the bar. It actually raises the bar. Tithing's a great starting point. It requires each of us to sit down and remember what we've been entrusted with and make a decision about how we're going to respond. I like to think of tithing as training wheels. You know, you see a kid out on the street, they're learning to ride their bike, they've got training wheels on. It helps them develop muscles and motions and confidence while they're riding. How many of you have seen a 50-year-old on a bike with training wheels? They got to come off at some point. We've got to be free to go. It's about training our hearts to deal with our motives, our selfishness, our consumerism, comparing what we have to others, and in time we just live like it all belongs to Him. And we become the kind of people who are generous. The generous life does not require a calculator. Generosity is when we treasure Christ and His kingdom more than anything else. And we know the dangers that it presents to our souls, so we make the intentional choice to be generous, and we know that it honors God, and in time it becomes a joy, it becomes a way that we worship the Lord. Generosity is not a thing we do. It's who we're becoming. So that the whole of our lives is available to the Lord as He might ask or need it. That we get to live our lives and thinking, how can I be a blessing here? How can I be a gift? How can I be an encouragement? So what would it look like for you, for all of us to grow in the discipline of generosity? I know a number of you, you're there. You get this, so ignore me for the next few minutes. Let me give you 4 things that I would say to you today. If this is an area, I'm not sure I'm overly happy to hear you talk about this today, but I'll hear you out. Here's kind of 4 things I would say to you. The first is this, and it's probably the most important. You need to be willing to accept the invitation to live as a steward, not an owner. If you don't do this, the rest will get messy. You have to first accept the invitation to say, what I have, God has given to me, and I'm required to be a manager of it. That's so important to get this at the foundation. Your gifts, your abilities, your brains, your strength, your talents, they're a gift to you from God. And so you get to be the manager of this gift. What does that look like for you? Second is to be intentional. It requires a plan. Don't give because someone guilts you or someone makes you feel emotional and you need a postcard with a sad person on it in order to do something. Choose in advance to give a percentage of your income and just do it. And I understand for some of you, you just graduated, you've got student debt, you're sending money back home to family, you're working 2 part-time jobs, you've got little kids, it all feels impossible. God's only ask of us is to be faithful with what He's given to us. And then get started. Practice it. Try it out. Start doing it. Figure out what that looks like for you. And if you don't trust my motives, find a place to designate your giving. That's really all I care about, is that you kind of move in obedience in this area. Lastly, this is important too. If your goal is to let Jesus be Lord of your life and have Him transform your heart from the inside out, pay attention to what happens in your heart when you practice this. I can guarantee you some stuff's going to go on in your heart that you need to pay attention to. How many of you have ever started running or biking or pickleball or skiing or cross-country skiing or started walking? How many started out the first time? How did you feel the next day after the first time you did it? The first day you go for your run for your very first time, and the next morning you wake up feeling sore, right? Your muscles have an issue with you. They have a message for you. This was uncomfortable. It's a bad idea. Please never do it again. I don't know who told you it would be fun, right? If you start practicing this, your heart is going to have a response as well. Maybe it's going to be fear, dread, panic, resentment, anger at me for bringing it up. Who knows? You're going to have a response in your heart. Or you might be thinking, oh, look at me. God is going to have to love me more. He's going to have to do more for me. I'm going to be more important than everybody else. All of these are problems. When you start practicing this, you're training your heart in a brand new way. It will respond. Pay attention to what goes on in your heart. Because God's not just interested in changing your behaviors. He wants to change our hearts. He does not want something from you. He wants something for you. And at the end of the day, this conversation is what every other conversation we have from this platform with each other is really about asking this question: do I really trust God with the whole of my life? Do I believe He really loves me? Do I believe His plan for me is actually a really great plan? And would I give Him all of it and just watch and see what He would do? Let me pray for us. Lord, we thank you today that you love us enough to speak not just to our behaviors, to the surface things in our heart, but to the core of who we are. That you want something for us. It's your vision of life. It's better than anything we could cook up. It's better than anything advertisers could sell us. And so we just pray today you'll give us the courage to trust you, to take a step of faith, and see, God, how it is that you might meet us in the midst of that. That we might experience more of your life, more of your peace, more certainty. And then that would just be such an incredible gift for each one of us. And we pray this in your name.